Oh, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Y'all been hearing a lot about me today, so I gotta I gotta live up to the expectation. But first of all, thank you, Shantae, for the kind words and everything that you're doing, leading the Embrace Project. Um, thank you for this incredible honor to be recognized with the Inspirational Voice Award. It's deeply meaningful. Sometimes you do work and you go home and you really don't know whether you're having the impact, especially this type of work. So having the opportunity to be with you all tonight and be honored really drives me and gets going and makes me want to get up tomorrow and be even bigger. But as I receive this award, I can't help but to think about my mother. You see, I was not in foster care myself, but I am the son of someone who was. My mother entered foster care when she was just 2 years old and aged out at the age of 18. She and her four brothers and four sisters were separated, moved around, and asked to grow up without the stable, loving connection every child deserves. For a long time, I didn't fully understand how much that shaped her. She kept it all to herself. I grew up thinking we had a pretty normal household, two parents, and everything that everybody said you're supposed to have. But as I got older, I started to see all of the missing pieces, the strained family relationships, the complicated holidays, the stories she couldn't always tell. And then one day, my mother said something to me that I'll never forget. She said, "Darrell, I was lost in life until I met your dad." And that stuck with me. She aged out of care at 18 without the foundation every young person truly needs, without a clear sense of who she was and where she belonged or what the world could be for her. She met my father, became pregnant, and in him she found something that felt like direction. But I learned that sometimes what may save you may not heal you. Because the trauma my mom carried didn't disappear when she aged out. It didn't disappear when she got married, and it didn't disappear when she had me or my brother or welcomed my cousin into our house. That trauma stayed with her. As I begin to do some of this work, I'll never forget something else she told me that hit even harder. She said, "Darrell, I didn't know how to love you and your brother and sister because I never felt love myself." That hit like a ton of bricks. Suddenly, so much of my life started to click and make sense. The lack of affection in our home, the way I struggled with affection in my own relationships, and even the things I had to be conscious of as a father myself. That was when I understood that foster care is not just something that happens to a child, its impact can echo through generations. That's why this work matters so much to me. Because the work we do today to make change for kids in care doesn't just help that child, it can make a difference for generations to come. In my tech life, my favorite mantra is I build for the future, not the now. So I got obsessed with technology at an early age, at the age of 14. I tell everybody I grew up down the street in Richmond, Virginia, and much like DC, it gets hot and humid in the summertime. And my friends would knock on the door and say, "Darrell, you want to come out and play?" And I was like, "No, I'll come out about 7 o'clock when the sun goes down." And one of the reasons was my dad had brought a computer home, and I was in there messing with it, and I was trying to figure out things. Um, and I started coding. I started building things, solving problems. And by 18, I was working full-time in tech. I worked hard, I used my talent. I rose the traditional ranks to CIO and CTO roles across state, local government, automotive, banking, you name it. But at some point, the work stopped feeling fulfilling. The tech that I was building was just making companies money, but I knew technology could do so much more, have so much more impact. And then one day, you heard the story earlier, I was sitting in the airport coding. I'm gonna tell you the story from my side of the view. You heard Sixto's side of the view. So first of all, at the airport, I was coming from a conference, and one of the two things, either I had missed the flight or I was trying to get on an early flight. So I was on standby on this flight. And we all know a lot of times you're on standby, you have to wait. They have to call everybody just to get a seat. I'm ready to get home. So yeah, I'm sitting there coding. Obviously, I had some deadline. And I see this guy, he's coming, and matter of fact, I hear him before I see him. And he's walking towards me, and he's on the phone, and I'm barely paying attention, but I could tell he was some type of boss. But he was cool. You know, instead of sitting in the chair at the airport, he sat up against the wall, and he was just, you know, on the phone. And as he told you, he did come up to me and ask me those questions. But what he didn't tell you is he waited to the very end of boarding, of them calling boarding, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm gonna get out on this flight. And here this guy walks up to me and asks me the most crazy, well, your coder question was pretty cool, but the question about are you connected to foster care? And in my head, I was like, who are you and why the heck are you asking me this? Dude, I'm trying to get on this flight. And I honestly think I originally said no. And then, because I've never had anybody ask me that question in my life. It wasn't something that was in the forefront for me, but then something hit me and I said, yes, my mom was in care. And at that point, you know, I did not know the entire trajectory of my life was going to change. He asked me, he said, hey, I'm looking for someone to help lead a team. And I tell people all the time, and, you know, I think we may have butt heads one time because as he was raising money to bring me on, I said, no, you said you want someone to help you build a team. I don't even want to be the first hire because I also knew if I was the first hire, he was going to work me to death. So I'm like, no, you're not going to get me with that one. So, you know, it was really about building a team to do some amazing work, and it changed so much for me in how to use technology to be a bridge and to help people. And me and this man Sixto traveled the country from child welfare agency to funder to begging to all that you can think of to try to raise the money to begin some of this work in child welfare. And I just want to, I'm totally off script, so teleprompter person, hang on with me here. I really just want to take this moment to thank Sixto, the entire Think of Us team, all the mentors, Raphael, Sandra, who's at that table. That's an amazing group over there with Think of Us. Sixto, I thought you would have said it, but this month is actually the 10-year anniversary of when this man said, you know, we're gonna have a hackathon at the White House. And, you know, a lot of people, yeah, round of applause. First of all, a lot of people don't know what a hackathon is, but the way that this young man, and you gotta remember, I forgot, you know, maybe 20, 21 when I met him, and, you know, as he called it, I was one of the seasoned ones. I was in my 30s by then. So to just see how he moved, the respect that he commanded and said, hey, we're gonna have the first ever foster care technology hackathon at the White House, right down the street. And for me, it was such an aha moment to have all the child welfare leaders across the country come together, all these tech leaders come together, and to sit in rooms like this for 2 days and realize how much of an issue that the lack of technology was hurting the child welfare sector. And that just sparked something in me. I say technology is the greatest equalizer of all disparities. And that's why I'm so proud to support Kidsave and be involved in the work of Embrace, because Kidsave understands that connection changes lives. And Embrace recognizes that Black youth are disproportionately represented in foster care and deserve intentional support, understanding, and opportunity. When we solve for the children most impacted by the system, we create solutions that help every single child. And what I respect is that Kidsave has stayed with it. This has not been performative. This is not a passing moment. This is a commitment. I was having a conversation earlier and just saying, sometimes a lot of people make commitments however the wind blows, and then they move on to the next thing, and all of a sudden, what was important 4 years ago or 5 years ago wasn't important, as if the work was actually completed or solved. When we talk about human change and behavior, this thing takes decades, you know what I mean? Somebody will look back, 40 and 50 years from now and try to trace those steps, so the work has not been completed at all. It's something every one of us in this room can do about it. You don't have to be in foster care to care about foster care. You don't have to adopt to make a difference, but each of us has something we can bring to the solution. For me, it's technology. Being a geek, being a coder, building systems, understand how things connect, how we can help improve people, and how we can work better. That's my superpower. So my question to everyone in this room, what's yours? Maybe it's mentoring. Maybe it's opening your network. Maybe it's funding a program or hiring a young person from care. So whatever your talent is, whatever your superpower, my challenge to you tonight is think about how you can harness it for good and to create change, and how you can say yes to making a difference. Thank you all, and I really appreciate this. Have a good night.